All right. Good
Mm.
afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. Now, before we actually start, I want to go ahead and ask our question of the day, just as everyone's kind of coming in and settling down in front of your computers, your phones, or your tablets, whatever you have in front of you. Okay, for those already with us in the room, you feel free to answer and go ahead and just kind of insert your your own answers to the question. Okay, so Easter's coming up. We all know that. So do you have anything planned for the weekend or anything you're excited for?
Hmm. Um, yeah, it's a really special weekend, obviously.
Yeah.
We are, my goal this weekend is to have a little bit of beach time, obviously, and celebrate Easter, with my family. It'll be a small celebration this year with just my husband and my oldest daughter, but it will still be a special one.
I love Easter. Really good time
Me
of year.
too. I love spring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really don't feel it all that much here, but still
Oh,
a great time.
yeah.
Oh, another follow-up question of the day, kind of just a little insert just because I want a fun question. Okay. So would you rather have to wear a full bunny costume all day on Easter or dress up as a giant Easter egg?
Well, since I live in Florida, it would be way too hot to wear a giant bunny costume all day. So I think I'd go for the Easter egg if I could pick the color and the design and all that sort of
Yeah, I would honestly be afraid to dress up as a giant Easter egg because like I have the three dogs would just probably run after me, which is like
thing.
that image is so funny to me, but like I know they're not going to do anything, but they might
Well,
try to like bite off something.
that's a good point because my dogs would be going after me if I was dressed as a bunny.
Oh God. Okay, all right, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. Again, I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant and your host for today. Now, in this marketing talks, we'll actually be talking about your content strategy, why you need one, and how to build one with the lovely Janelle Sykora. And I'll hand this off to Janelle in just a little bit after I cover a few of the housekeeping items. Now, there is no CPE for this as it is just a 30-minute webinar. And if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A panel and be specific. Don't just say, what you mean? You guys know the drill. You got to ask, hey, Janelle, what do you mean by you would rather be a giant Easter egg for Easter? Mainly because she might not get to your question right after you put it in there. Now, we will be sending you a copy of the slide deck and a link to the recording after the webinar. And it's also going to be up on our YouTube page within about 24 hours. So if you want to check that out over there, along with many other webinars that Janelle has done in the past that might be of interest to you. I'll also be putting the link to our YouTube channel right into our chat. And also do not forget that we have many webinars for you every month, whether you're interested in practice management, marketing like this one, everything tax, or all things QuickBooks, Insightful Accountants got something for you. Now you can check out all of our webinars that are available to you over on our educational webinars page right on our site. And do not worry, I'll also be putting that link into our chat as well. And now speaking of webinars, I need you guys to mark your calendars for Insightful Accountants Future Forward Integration and Workflows on May 21st to 22nd. Now get ready for 4 exciting webinars over 2 days. So 2 days, 8 webinars, and each eligible for a CPE certificate. So don't miss out on this opportunity to enhance your skills and stay ahead in the industry and register now. I'll be putting that link to the registration right into our chat as well. And if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, join the tens and thousands of accounting professionals who rely on Insightful Accountant to keep them up to date on the news and updates impacting today's accounting professional. I will be rolling out all those links for you and the copy of the slide deck throughout the webinar in case you might have missed it the first time I put it in there. So watch out for that in the chat. And Janelle, that is it for me. Welcome and thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks, Cheska. And welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is a really fun topic. So if you're ready to transform your firm's marketing and grow your business with a powerful content strategy, you're in the right place. As Cheska said, I'm Janel Sykora. I'm a co-founder of a firm called Cajabra, and we are a marketing agency that specializes in the accounting space. So in the next 30 minutes or so, a little bit less than that, my goal is for you to gain the clarity and learn about some tools that will help you create your own content roadmap. So with that, let's dig in. All right. So I'm sure that many of you are probably familiar with some of these struggles that are on this slide. Posting sporadic blog posts, a few social media updates when you've got time, maybe even an occasional newsletter that goes out, but you're frustrated because you just don't see the return that you've been hoping for. That is the chaos of marketing without a content strategy. It's kind of like wandering around the desert without a map. You waste a ton of energy, you get really hot, you get really frustrated, but you get nowhere. But there's good news. We can fix this. And it does work if you do it right. I am going to show you how to do it and some tools that you can use to make it easier on yourselves as accountants to do this in your firms. All right. So having a content strategy is the compass really for guiding every piece of content that you create so that you're not winging it. It's planned, it's organized, it doesn't feel overwhelming. And when you create focused content, it really does help turn leads into loyal clients. And then when you're consistent, then your expertise and your value really become undeniable. Your firm can become the go-to expert in your local area or your niche. But I want to be clear, this doesn't happen overnight. This is what we call organic marketing, right? We're not doing a pay-per-click or paid advertising, anything like that. And when you have organic marketing that you're not paid marketing, what happens is it takes commitment, right? It takes executing a cadence and a strategy, and it also takes time. It's like, you go to the gym expecting to lose 30 pounds and get a six pack. That doesn't happen if you just go once this week, three times, the following week, and then don't show up again for another month or two. So if you start stop or you throw spaghetti at a wall, it won't work. You do have to be consistent, and then after time it will work. You will see a measurable return on your investment, whether that investment is time or money or both. Okay, so let's break it down. What is a content strategy? Truly, a content strategy really isn't overly complicated, but it is very, very powerful. These are the main elements, I think, that will help you align your work to your firm's goals. It's really answering these critical questions of first, who are we talking to? Who is your target audience? And you've probably heard me say, if you've seen any of my other webinars, that the number one most important thing that you need to do when you're creating a brand is think about your ideal clients. Who are they? Who's your target audience? What are their pain points and what are their questions? And when you think about content, and we're going to talk more about the types of content here in a minute, but you have to identify who are you creating the content for first. Then you have to think about what you want to accomplish. Are you looking to become a thought leader? Do you want to drive more people to your website? Are you trying to showcase that you're an expert in a certain niche to attract new clients to that niche or to that service? That's really important. Once you figure out what your goal is, that's also going to drive the type of content that you create. And then we want to talk about, well, how will we deliver our messages? That's the content type, right? So I often ask people, what are you comfortable with? And what does your target audience respond to? So if you're a person who absolutely will not get behind a camera and get on video, then that's out, right? But this is where you need to think about, is it going to be written content like a blog? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be infographics? Infographics are very, very popular. They're an image that maybe has a set of steps or a set of tips on it. So there are lots of different content types to choose from that you can narrow down once you've figured out who are you creating the content for, what's my goal for doing this in the first place, now what type of content do I have to have, and then finally we can figure out where are we sharing this information. Frankly, this can feel a little overwhelming to a lot of firms that I talk with. They think they have to be everywhere. I talked to someone yesterday who had a Twitter channel, an Instagram, a Facebook, what else? Obviously LinkedIn, and they were just all over the place, but not doing any of them, executing any of them very well. So I often tell people to take a step back and think about your channels. You need to decide on where the best platforms are to distribute your content based on where your target audience is hanging out. Maybe social media is not your thing. If it isn't, I would encourage you to think again back to your target audience and think, okay, well, where are they? If they are on social media, is it just LinkedIn? Is it just Instagram? Pick one. So that's really kind of the fourth element of creating a high level content strategy is where am I going to distribute this content? Okay. Okay. Now, this is where we want to roll up our sleeves and get the work done. Now, remember, it's okay to start small, but be consistent. And you'll hear me say that over and over again, because it's not worth investing 1 minute of your time in if you aren't going to do it consistently. Whether that's, one blog post a month every month, or 2 blog posts a month, or whether it's creating a video every week, whatever you decide to do and commit to, make that one step and follow through on that. Once that becomes kind of something you do in your sleep, no big deal, feels less intimidating, then you can add other pieces of content to your strategy. But ideally, what you want to do is follow these steps, and we kind of talked about them on the last slide, to put everything all together, right? So sit down with a Google Doc or a Word doc and first define your target audience. Who are they? This is who you're writing for. And then what you want to do is set those goals, like we talked about. Write down, what is my goal? I want to be a thought leader. I just want to drive people to my website. If that's the case, as an example, then maybe what you want to do is focus on your blog. And in that case, if you were moving on to step 3, where you're going to brainstorm out and plan your content. A lot of times people say, I don't know where to start. I'm not sure what people want to know. I would say that a great place to start is, what are the top burning questions that your target audience wants the answers to? That's where you start. Those questions that people ask you over and over again is a great place to start when it comes to creating content. Then obviously in number 4, you're going to create it, whether you're doing it on a video, maybe you're doing it on Loom video, maybe you are writing a blog, maybe you're doing it via social media. We're going to talk about some tools here for that in a second. But then finally, you're going to promote and distribute your content. And I want to call your attention to something here. It's not just about distributing it once. We're going to talk about how to repurpose as well, because I have some tips for you there. But the other thing that a lot of firms don't realize is, if you, for example, write a blog post and you share it in your social media channel once, if it's a blog post that's relevant all the time, in other words, evergreen, share it over and over again, because very few of your followers are going to see everything you put out every single time. It's okay to share an evergreen message multiple times. If you've got a really great ebook, or a really great little video reel, or a checklist, or a blog post, and it's good and you've gotten good feedback on it, put it in your rotation to share every month, or every quarter, whatever you feel comfortable with. But that really does help take the pressure off when it comes to your entire content strategy, because once you've built up enough, you're going to be able to recycle a lot of it. Okay. So let's talk about the content calendar. This is very, very helpful. In fact, this is the best way to really get organized and feel like, oh, this isn't as scary as I thought it would be. Basically, your a good content calendar is really, it's the heart of your entire strategy, and it takes the guesswork out of what to post, when to post it, and then it empowers you to really be a little bit more strategic versus reactive about the content that you're creating. And having like a simple high-level visual can really help you stay on top of your content and fill in gaps as well. So I want to talk about this. I think that one of the things that is very helpful is to plan ahead. And we're going to talk about how to do that here a little bit later. But I think it's important to schedule blog posts. Schedule them out. If you have 2 or 3 blog posts that you've written, don't post them all at once. Schedule them out. Social media content. What I like to do is use a Google Calendar. You can use an actual calendar, or you can create a Google Sheet. You can create a Microsoft Excel worksheet. And at the bottom, you can create a tab for each month, as an example. And then you can put in like days, have a column for topic, have a column for caption, have a column for images, and a column for hashtags. And you can plan all of it out. And when you're looking at it high level like this, it doesn't look as daunting. And you can say, oh man, this isn't going to be that hard to post 3-4 things a week. That's not that big of a deal. And then you can create themes. You can create themes like, okay, well, every Wednesday I'm going to promote a podcast, or every Thursday I'm going to promote a throwback Thursday or a tax tip Thursday, something like that. But you can create themes, and then that also makes it very easy for you to create a content calendar around those. It also really, that roadmap does help you be consistent. And it helps you just visualize your strategy at a whole different level. There's other project management platforms that you can use, but just to keep it simple, I say either create a Google Calendar just for your content, an Excel document, or a Google Sheet and plot it all out. I like to personally plan about a month at a time. And one good way to do that too is to think about when we hit April 1st, think about, okay, well, what are the most relevant topics that my audience is going to want to know about in April? Jot them down at the top of that calendar, 2 or 3 topics, and then everything can revolve around that. Your blog posts, your social media, your videos, all of those things can revolve around those topics for that month. If you start there and you make your topics consistent throughout all of your content, it's going to be a lot easier for you to manage. All right. Another thing I want to mention here too is a scheduling tool. So another, once you've got your calendar done, if you're using social media, I really like using scheduling tools, things like Loomly or Buffer, or in our software Cajabra, we have a social scheduling tool where at the beginning of each week, maybe you go in and you schedule all your posts for that week if you're posting to social media. And then it's done. You don't have to worry about it, unless, of course, something comes up. There's an important change that you need to let your audience know about, or something exciting happened, or there's an event. You can always add posts in there. But if you can at least schedule 1 week in advance or 2 weeks in advance, even a month in advance, that's going to lighten the load on you. And it's basically going to be something that's working for you. And you're going to feel like you've gotten ahead and it's not so daunting. So I highly recommend using a scheduling tool if you are doing any social media work. Okay. Now, every accountant I know is time strapped. There isn't one single one of you on this call that is not crunched for time. I guarantee it. So I'm all about working smarter, not harder, and repurposing your content. But how do you do that? So first of all, let's dig into really why. It lets you stretch your insights and your expertise further. So instead of creating everything from scratch every time, you can find ways to adapt and remix. Helps you stay really consistent with your messaging without getting stuck with writer's block or with into some content creation rut. So a few examples of how you can repurpose content would be a blog post. If you take a simple blog post, think about it. You could transform that post into an infographic. You could transform it into multiple social media posts promoting that blog post. You could take quotes out of it from a social and use those in social media. You could even transform it into a video or two. So anytime you're creating a piece of content, be thinking about how you can actually repurpose it as well. If you do a video, turn it into a blog post every single time. And then again, you can take chunks of that and put it into social media. So you're using the same piece of content in a lot of different ways. It makes it look a lot easier and feel a lot easier, especially when you're plotting that out on your calendar or on your Google Sheet or your Excel spreadsheet. The idea here is we want to get the most mileage out of everything we create. We also want to get our message out over and over again, because remember, like I said, not everyone is going to be seeing everything you post. They are going to miss things. As much as we want to think people are riveted on our every word and everything we want to share, they're not. They miss things. And sometimes we can become noise. So share it over and over. And then the last thing too is different people digest information differently, right? Like some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people like images, some people prefer to read copy. So I am a huge fan of repurposing your content into a lot of different types of content so that you are reaching everyone and how they want to digest that content. Make sense? I'm going to take a quick pause and see if I've got questions out there, because I know there's a lot of, okay. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Whoops. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, moving on. Okay. So I know what you're thinking. You're time strapped and you're thinking, One, I don't have time for all of this. Two, I'm an accountant, and the thought of creating content on a regular basis sounds nauseating and just not doable. I get it. But remember, you are more than accountants. You are business owners, you are entrepreneurs. And as a business owner, I'm a business owner as well. Prior to having my own business, I was in sales for many, many years. And I know that the only way to grow a business is to be able to market it successfully and promote it. And as a business owner, you have to do that. So, one thing that I would definitely tell you is that if you don't feel comfortable executing this on your own or yourself, outsource someone with expertise or outsource it to someone with expertise in this area, or even someone who can just create a strategy for you to get you started would even be helpful. Um, but that said, really the key to execution here and making sure that you're following a cadence, it's kind of a step beyond just creating the strategy in the calendar, right? It's trying to making sure that you can automate as much as possible. So we already talked about automating social media posting, and I'm a huge proponent of that because that completely cuts down on a lot of time for you. But also think about email campaigns. For example, I'm going to paint a picture for you. What happens when you get a great lead and they were in your office or you had a Zoom call with them? You're like, oh my gosh, this is a perfect fit. Really enjoyed talking to this person. I know I can help them. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I've never heard back from that person. My question to you is this: how do you follow up? Do you have an automated strategy for following up and nurturing them? This is also part of your content strategy, email. Email in, if you have any downloadable content that people can download from your website, we call those lead generators. Highly recommend them as part of your content strategy, but never put a lead generator on your website without requiring someone to put their email address in, because that will then empower you to market to them. And anytime you have a piece of content that people download, you want to have a series of emails behind it. And the goal in those emails is always, you're just always selling to the next step. You're not trying to get them to, just do business with you based on an email. You're only wanting to convince them to sit down and have a consultation or an initial meeting with you. It's all you want. You're only selling to that next step. That needs to be the call to action in all of the emails, 4, 5, 6 of them, over a certain prescribed amount of time, that need to go out after a downloadable asset. That asset could be an ebook, that asset could be a checklist, a guide, a video, you name it. Those are what we call sales sequences. The nurture emails would be, and where it says nurture your leads, this is all those leads that you have phone calls with or that you meet with, that you're like, I really wanted to work with them. It just might not have been the right time for them. But it will be at some point if on your end you've got an automated marketing campaign set up where you're popping into their email box twice a month and just giving them some little nugget of value that reminds them you're still there and you know your stuff and you're willing to share some of your knowledge. You're not giving away expensive knowledge for free, but you are educating them and giving them good value. That is part of your content strategy. And if you automate things like scheduling your social media, setting up your email sequences, automating those email sequences, you're not going to be tied to your computer 24/7, but you will be building your authority and your client base. And this becomes a marketing engine that runs tirelessly for you, and it will grow so big over time. Okay. Can you tell I totally believe in content? I'm really, really passionate about content creation and content strategy. Okay, so a couple of other things that I want you to consider. Two things I have on the slide and one thing I did not put on the slide, but I'm going to talk about. One, think about batching your work. If that isn't already obvious, I think that it really is helpful when I work with clients and they're creating their own content. I always tell them, pick a day where you're not going to have a lot of distractions, or pick a 2-hour block of time, 3-hour, half a day, whatever you need, where you're not going to have a lot of distractions. Turn off your phone, turn off your notifications, and sit down and just get it done. You will have such a sense of accomplishment once it's done, and you're going to have all of this content done, created, ready to share. Okay, so batch your work. If you don't have time, if you don't have the expertise, if the thought of this completely nauseates you or daunts you, then consider outsourcing some content creation or the creation of an overall strategy to someone who does do this for a living, to a writer, a graphic designer, or a marketing strategist. That way, it will free you up to then focus on what you're passionate about in your business, which may not be marketing or content, even though that's something we have to do to grow. The third thing that I want to talk about that's not on here is AI. Now, it's no secret. AI is changing every day. I have been in an AI mastermind studying content creation via AI for 15 months now and have learned an amazing amount. I've also learned that garbage in, garbage out, just like anything, right? So you can't necessarily go into Chat GPT thinking it's going to write this beautiful article in your voice, right? But if you do the correct prompts and the correct refiners and things like that, you're going to get some pretty cool content out of it. I like to look at AI as a really strong brainstorming buddy. So if you are thinking about, oh man, this is a good idea. I know I need to do this, but I have no idea where to start. Go back to what I told you before, which is think about who your target audience is. Go out to Gemini or Chat GPT 4. I don't recommend 3.5. Pay the 20 bucks a month, use Chat 4, or pay the 20 bucks and use Chat or Claude 3. That's an awesome tool as well, or use all three of them like I do. And there's others out there as well. And make it your brainstorming buddy to say, this is my target audience. I have a CAS practice targeting whatever niche, as an example. What are the burning questions people in my niche have as it relates to my service? That's a great brainstorming buddy right there. And then if you put the right prompts together, and I call them recipes of prompts, you can actually get any of those tools to create some decent content for you that will get you, I would say, 60% of the way there. And then you can take that content, paste it into a document, and you can apply your voice and your edits to it from there. That's a huge, huge time saver for content creation. All right. So I always like to make sure that people have their next steps to walk away with anytime I'm training or teaching or anything like that. So I want to I would like for you to do these 4 things. I want you to start by getting super clear on your audience. Now, remember, your audience doesn't have to be everyone, right? You may have a practice where it's kind of more of a general practice and you're like, oh gosh, we've really started doing a lot of business with businesses who carry inventory. Okay, great. So identify what audience you're going to create content for and start creating content for that audience. And then sit down and think about and write down, what type of content am I going to create? Am I going to do video, blogs, articles? Am I going to do a podcast? Do I want to be a guest on a podcast? Think through all the types of content, including social media, and jot that down. Again, don't feel like you have to swallow the apple whole. Just take a little bite and then take little bites as you go. That's what I mean when I say identify 1 or 2 channels, social media channels, and go for it. And by the way, it doesn't have to be social media. You could identify your website blog. Maybe you want to create a blog. Maybe you want to create a contest or a podcast. That's what I mean by channels. So marketing channels. Identify 1 or 2 of those and move forward. And then create your content calendar, Excel, Google Sheets, Google Calendar, whatever you use, whatever you like. Do that, and that's going to feel you're going to feel like this is no big deal at all, I promise. Okay, now I have something for you before we turn it over to any other questions. And I will answer questions here in just a minute. But basically, if you are ready to tackle your content strategy, really if you're ready to tackle marketing on your own, but just need some help, I've got you. So today, you guys are the very first to know and hear that we launched a brand new ebook bundle. So for a limited time, we're offering this bundle of 4 ebooks for $97. The value is way in excess of $3,000. But what it is it basically is all of your marketing frameworks, everything that I teach in one of them. And then I have spent, as I said, about 15 months curating AI prompts specifically for content creation in accounting firms. And I've got all of the tips and tricks isolated there for leveraging certain AI tools to create content. I've got a complete marketing automation toolkit for accountants. And then, of course, my guide on how to sell without selling for accounting firm owners, because none of us want to say the S word, the sell word, right? So if you were interested in this, you can check it out here, cajabra.com/DIY-ebook. And I have a coupon code just for you guys that will only be good for 48 hours. So if you're interested in it, it's a 20% off coupon code. And I think I can put this in this, let's see here. I'm going to put this in, you can copy and paste it. 20% off. Cajabra is the coupon code if you're interested. And then before I let you guys go, I want to see. Oh, someone said, what were the examples of the scheduling tools that Janelle mentioned? Okay, great question. So I like Loomly. I also like Buffer. Those are really good. And then our Cajabra software actually has a scheduling tool in it as well. It's a full CRM. It does lots of different things. But I would say of the ones that I've used, I definitely prefer Loomly and Buffer. Let's see if there's any other, I think. There we go. Yeah. If there are no other questions, then Cheska, I think we are good to go. And when you send out this deck to everyone, on the second to last page is the link if you are interested in checking out that website for the ebook bundle that I mentioned. And I think that is everything.
All right. Well, congratulations on your book launch. That's so great to hear. I
Thank
would
you.
love to actually get to read on it because, marketing, I love marketing. It's so fun to kind
It
of
is.
listen in on people who actually, like you, who really dive in and are really passionate about it. I love it. Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thanks, Janelle, and everyone for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us. And right before we close out this webinar, remember that we have a variety of webinars for you every month, and you can check those out on our educational webinars page. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel and newsletter as well, so you don't miss out on news and updates that impact today's accounting professional. Thanks for today, everyone, and we will see you in next month's session of Marketing Talks. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.